Kelly Walker, congratulations on this beautiful little film you've made called My Fiona. Can you just briefly, in a nutshell, give us the outline of the story? What is My
Yeah,
Fiona about?
I love it. And you said little film, and I actually love that. My editor calls it a cupcake of a movie, and I think that's a perfect way to explain it. So My Fiona is a film about this woman Jane, and when Jane's life is thrown into disarray after her childhood best friend and coworker Fiona kills herself, Jane tries to find a way to cope with her suffering, and she takes on looking after Fiona's son Bailey and Fiona's wife Gemma. While Gemma works, she looks after Bailey in the afternoons, and the wife and Jane begin to form this very intimate and romantic bond that is bound by the loss and grief of losing Fiona, which potentially is not the best thing for their healing.
What is the purpose of the film? Did you make this film with a particular intention in mind in how people would respond to it?
Yeah, I don't think I worried so much about how they would respond. It was more, it's so hard. There's things I want to talk about with the film that, well, let's just say there's an element of the overprescription of antidepressants comes into play, and that's a really important conversation for me. And when I realized that was something I wanted to talk about in life, I thought, well, maybe I'll just go talk to high schoolers and tell them, be really careful taking these drugs. They're overprescribed. Make sure your doctor and you have conversation, la la la. And then I thought, well, who's going to let me into a high school? Like, I don't even have a college degree. It's not going to happen. So I was like, well, how else can I get this information out? And it was through the script that I figured was the smartest way, because I think it's really, there's a fine line of feeding someone information and also giving people questions and allowing them to go decide their answers. And there's Google, and there's so many places we can go to find stuff out. So that's, did I answer your question?
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
And listen, I don't know how this is possible, but you've just read the next question that I had, given what you've just said. So I don't know what magic you've done to do this, but
I am a little bit psychic.
well, it's worked brilliantly because I'm going to read. If my video was working, I could actually show you what the question is. Is the film intended as a commentary on an over-medicated society?
Yeah, it is. I guess it's less of a commentary, more of a question. It's asking the question. It's that, my hope with this film is that one person talks to a friend that goes, oh, I know you're on antidepressants. Just make sure when you first start them, you're having good chats with your doctor. You're journaling how you feel each day. How is it changing? Because here's the thing, like, I want to make sure this is not a movie condemning antidepressants whatsoever. It's just a movie about the safety. It's the same with, there's labels on drinking. Don't have too many drinks. You will vomit. You will pass out. Don't drive drunk. You might crash and kill people. It's the exact same thing. It's not saying don't drink, it's saying drink responsibly. Prescribe responsibly.
Just a quick point. You're using the film to get out a message in what you deem to be the most effective way. Kelly, when did it occur to you that cinema had this power to actually have an impact on people? That it was an effective way to get a message out?
This is so silly, but my favorite movie of all time is Fight Club. And I remember exactly the time of day, how old I was, where I was sitting when I saw that movie for the first time, and it changed my life. And I learned so much about the power of identity and the way that, we deem society and what society tells us we should have in our lives in order to be complete from that film. So I guess for me, it's very different from Fight Club, obviously. But if film can move someone to see their life differently, that's a wonderful way to spread awareness. And also, film is to tell stories. Film is also to entertain. It has to be a blend.
Kelly Walker, I and everybody watching this has just fallen a little bit in love with you because of what you just said about Fight Club.
It's a good movie.
How old were you when you saw it?
I was 15, and this was after my brothers saw it, who are younger than me. And I was like, Mom, they watched this movie called Fight Club. You should ground them. It's a terrible film. And then I snuck down at 11:53 p.m. on a Tuesday because it was playing on Foxtel, and I watched it. And I was like, well, there, my life is over. The colors were more vivid the next day. My friend and I ended up having like a bit of a Fight Club thing where we punched each other one time. Like, it was a whole
Okay.
do.
I think part of the power of the film is the way that it deals with grief. And I love the way you do show that there are unexpected outcomes that grief can produce. Some of them obviously negative, but some of them positive. Can you just speak to that issue a little bit about I guess, the ambivalent relationship that people have with grief? It's not all terrible.
No, you know what's interesting about grief is you never, no matter how many times you go through it, you never get used to it. And no one grief for one person is the same as the next. So you can't even like chalk it up to your 10,000 hours of expertise. You know, that there's that saying. Um, Grief is funny. You can go forwards and backwards and sideways, and that can all be in one day. And the idea of the 7 stages of grief can alternate. Rarely do they happen in succession of each other. And it is such a powerful emotion. And I think as a society, we don't spend enough time understanding and talking about it, because almost to the thing of grief feels contagious when we're around someone going through it. So we never want to spend too much time even analyzing it in order to like not give ourselves the bad juju that someone we love might die. And yeah, I mean, it's funny. I'm having a lot of pauses because I'm currently going through grief. So I'm thinking of it from like the last month. Our lead actress Jeanette Maus passed away,
Yes.
and it's been interesting having the film also going through this and realizing stuff about myself in grief that was different from the last time I was in grief.
That if you ever needed to prove to anybody that you're a good writer with real life insights, all you need to do is quote this line from the film near the very end, where the lead character says, I'm finally okay with being okay that I'm not okay. That line really challenges the notion of closure. But closure is kind of a strange concept. Can you just unpack that for us, please?
Yeah, I'm finally okay that I'm not a. What is it? I'm finally okay. I'm not okay.
I'm finally okay with being okay that I'm not okay. Brilliant line.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's definitely. You know what it is about grief too? It's like the idea, like you never get over the person. When someone says like eventually you'll move on, you'll get over it, or you'll. It's not that. You just learn to live with it, right? You learn that there's this new. Your soul has a heaviness that it didn't have the day before that person passed. And you just learn to carry that little extra bit of baggage every day. And I think that becomes normal. I don't think it ever becomes okay, right? I think the other thing is, I'm actually experiencing with Jeanette is I almost don't want to be okay. I almost don't want to be on the other side of feeling all these feelings, because I don't want her to just be a memory. I don't want her to be a part of the past. There's almost like this kicking and screaming away from, learning to survive this, right? It's like when you feel a strong emotion, it feels more tactile than the feeling of numbness. And again, it's like such a weird thing that the movie is about this, and then this is exactly the experience, and it's like this very strange out of body. Is this really happening? But yeah, I think that grief is just, it's like it wears you down to the point where you have to just succumb to whatever it is you're going through. And the trick with it too is you can't fight it. You can't lie to yourself. You can try to lie to others. It will never pass if you don't own whatever it is you're going through at any given point. And that can be going backwards. Own it, own it, own it. Like you just absolutely have to.
The film is a remarkable example of, as you said, life imitating art that this
Yeah.
happened. I did want to just ask you just two uh, questions about Jeanette, who puts in a terrific performance. Can you just speak about the impact on you personally? Although I do think you've probably covered that, but just keen to just capture the impact on you personally when it happened, but also as a filmmaker, the pragmatic side. What do you do when the lead actress in the film that you are yet to release has passed away so young? Can you just address that?
Yeah. I hadn't really thought about the filmmaker aspect of it. I'm sure if we weren't as close of friends, I would have more of a pragmatic response to it. But I think as far as the filmmaking stuff, it just doesn't seem fair that we have wonderful happening with Christopher in Sydney and Melbourne Queer in Melbourne, and then a couple others coming up soon. And I just feel like I can't call her. Or there's this gorgeous review the other day that mentioned her work, and it's like it's just so unfair that she doesn't get to experience this. So for me as a filmmaker, it's more that I just want, if I can't share this with her, it's really sad. It just feels a little bit empty. So I have to find ways to find the way of sharing it with her. And a lot of it looks like me going, Jeanette, just out into like the ceiling. Jeanette, you're never gonna believe what so and so said. And usually there'll be some little magical spiritual thing that will happen around the times when I yell out, Jeanette. So I save it for just the good ones. Jeanette is a person, like she she suffered from Crohn's for about a decade or so ago before she got cancer, and I've never met someone that has gone through severe illness and been so authentically positive and courageous and strong. And she taught us, I feel like she taught everyone around her how to show up for her. And I think that's probably why it was such a surprise, her passing, because she had this in the bag. I mean, it was going to be a blip in her life. So I think that that's really where the shock comes from. But her, God, it's like you make a movie and you go, oh, I hope I get to Netflix or whatever the end goal is. And from where I'm standing right now, it's just like, thank God I got to work with Jeanette when I had the chance. Like, thank God we got to like bond in this way that a friendship usually doesn't get to break that barrier of them being these like co-workers, and we're in the trenches together. And it was so many times it was Jeanette and I against the world, and she called me her muse, I called her my muse. And it does put into perspective like what you want from a film. It changes things. It's now I just want people to see her work. I want them to celebrate her in the way that we're all her close friends are celebrating her. And also, I feel like Jeanette kind of gave us a gift in the way she's in this film. Her work is so just she is us in the movie. Everyone that's grieving her right now, she plays us grieving for us. And there's this weirdness about that, but also something really, I guess, peaceful, because we're almost collectively experiencing our loss of Jeanette with Jeanette by watching the film. We just got super existential. I think you guys are following. Um, yeah, so I think Jeanette almost gave us this gift passing, and we still have this piece of her. And I just feel like even in all the sadness, I just have this like insane amount of gratitude. So it's kind of a lovely balance. I'm not gonna lie. There are times where I'm like, I don't want the gratitude. I just want to feel sad right now. And then there are times where I'm like holding on to that gratitude for dear life.
Whenever we lose talented people before their time, there's always a sense, along with the grieving, of what we've all been denied, what they could have been. Did you have a sense of what kind of filmmaking talent she was developing into?
Yeah, I mean, her work. This was just her beginning. Like as I said, like she'd been sick a long time ago, so she'd lost some time in her career there as well. And And she's done so much work on herself. Like we had these moon circles we'd do, which is a bunch of women that would sit around and, call to the goddesses. And she was doing such incredible work on herself in circle. I just know, I mean, I just believe whatever she's doing somewhere else was more important than anything she could do on Earth. And I have to just kind of choose that. Yeah, I think she would have had I think she would have worked for the rest of her life because she's such an incredible collaborator and she is so wonderful to have on set that she would have been working with the same people over and over and over because everyone loves to work with Jeanette.
Kelly Walker, are you a spiritual person?
How did you know? I am. Yes, I'm very spiritual. These are my tarot tattoos.
Uh, do you believe in God? How does it manifest?
Yeah, I believe there's actually a part in the movie where the little boy asks, where did mom go? And that's very true to what I believe in, and the idea that we learn lessons in this lifetime, and then we go and we have a bit of a powwow with our spirit guides, or our spirit, our higher powers. Our I don't know if I believe in a God per se, but I believe in universe, and I believe in a higher power. We have a bit of a powwow. We talk like, oh yeah, that wasn't great when I did that one thing. Oh yeah, I did do that pretty good. Great. So I'm going to go back this time. I'm going to try X, Y, Z. And we'll see how it goes. We'll reconvene in a couple of years. Got it. Great. Like that's how I kind of picture it.
The film certainly comes good, especially in the second half, but I did feel that the emotional lines in some of the characters were a bit choppy. It seemed to be very quick transitions from being too light to being grief stricken. It didn't say that the cadences just seemed to be a little bit too abrupt, I guess is the best word.
Do you find that was from scene to scene or
Yeah.
in the same scene?
No, no,
From scene
no,
to scene.
no. From scene to scene.
Yeah. So that actually was a choice in sometimes cutting out of things very abruptly. I didn't want to. I wanted to give the audience a chance to linger when I wanted them to linger, and I wanted to almost push you out the door in a bit of a chaotic way at times. And I kind of do that throughout the whole film. And I think that's more to the idea of how we look back at the time of grief. We don't have a full memory of it. It can feel very much staccato. So that was kind of the choice behind there. And maybe the choice didn't work. And that's something that's good to know.
Or maybe it did work and my critical faculties are simply failing in old age. Could be that too.
But also, the whole point of film is to have opinions. I love walking out of a movie theater and having a contrasting opinion from my husband when we're discussing the same movie we just saw. I think that's the fun of it.
And just quickly, look, I think the child actor does a good job in this film, but that there are moments where, and we have seen this a lot with kid actors, where rather than acting more like children, they're actually acting like miniature adults. They seem to be almost too worldly and too articulate for their age. What was it like directing this child, and what did you think of that observation?
Yeah, so I wrote the character. Okay, so back in my early 20s, I babysat a little boy who became a bit of a soulmate for me, and the character was based on him, and he was very much an old soul trapped in a 4-year-old's body. Like there was this one time where I was telling him some relationship drama, and he looked at me and said, maybe you should talk to your friends about this one. I don't think I'm qualified. And I'm like, this is a 4-year-old. So I wrote this child to have that same almost awareness and maturity, but at the same time, the curiosity of a child. And those two things could kind of conflict within himself. Directing kids was my first time. And you definitely have to play some mind games. And you also just have to trust what they want to do and kind of follow their lead. And I absolutely love Elohim. He's one of my favorite humans on this planet. When I first met him in the casting room, I was like, I knew it was him. Like he was my Bailey.
I didn't really see the bisexuality in this film as an issue. I didn't really feel that it was like jumping out like, hey, here's a statement about the way bisexual relationships can develop. It just seemed like part of the dramatic fabric of the film. It happens very naturally.
That's exactly what I was trying to do. Yeah, I just, for me, it was so important that it be a film with a bisexual character, with a lesbian character, I wanted it to look and feel like my world, which isn't, let me introduce you to my gay friend. It's so much, someone's identity, their sexual identity, there's so much more than that. And I wanted to make sure we were able to capture that without making it about that, if that makes sense, because that's my experience. I think people identify better when it's not being forced upon them. The same thing with the antidepressant stuff. It's like, go ask your own questions. Bisexuality, it's just a part of this world. And I think, for me, it's like Jane's experience has kind of been my experience of like the want to label, the want to identify, the want to know where I fit. And then that idea that it doesn't matter. You are who you are. And as long as you own that, that's the full stop right there.
Now, I just want to ask you a couple of questions about your work as an independent filmmaker, and then I'm going to hit you with the big one. So, a couple of questions to soften you up, and then I'm going to blindside you. Look, can you just tell me, Kelly, as an independent filmmaker working in America, just how you raise the finance? Because in America, unlike in Australia, you don't have any access to government money, do you? It's a much different model.
Yeah, I definitely don't. Maybe others do. I don't. I think there's funds and stuff. We raised it privately. We raised it from private investors, friends of friends, that sort of thing. And, it's one of those things like they have to believe in you as a filmmaker, and then they also have to take a chance on a first-time filmmaker. So I felt like a lot of responsibility with that, especially then going into a year where the pandemic hit and nobody got out of that scot-free. So it is like there's this thing of like, I really just want to put that money back in their pockets.
Yes.
With an independent film, that is not, that's not a assured thing, right? But the other thing with the finances, we also, Matt Minshaw, one of our producers, he works on NCIS and is a producer now on NCIS LA, and he was able to rally a bunch of crew members, post-production houses, to work on the film for a fraction of what it would cost normally. As long as we did it within the time frame that worked for them, we got so much for so little. So the film was able to look a lot bigger than what the actual budget was.
Can you just very quickly just address that issue? Because I hear it a lot where crew members just want to muck in. They're not worried about making money. If they've got a job, a professional job, if they hear of an independent project going and that they can contribute, they will waive their fee or work for a paltry amount.
I think it's because people want to work on something that, look, the boom guy is never going to do that. He shouldn't, or she shouldn't waive the fee to hold this. This is hard to do. I've done it. It was like, my hands were shaking after 5 minutes. But a lot of people will do it because they believe in the project. I've done it. And also it's so much of, I don't know how it is in Australia as much, but so much of our industry is our relationships that we make. And that will be your repeat business will be because of the people you've worked with. So if you are working for maybe a little less money right now and meeting all these people, and we don't know which one of us is going to have the next opportunity that's going to bring everyone back on board. So it's kind of the idea of planting those seeds, creating those relationships, and maybe making a little less money than you did on the commercial you did last week. But you have to believe in the project and the people you're working with, and you have to be, you have to be down to play. But you also have to, that comes down to the director too. Like, if you're having people on your set work for less money than they deserve, then it's your responsibility to create a good set so that these people are not giving you your time for almost free for nothing. Like, you have to show up for them because they're showing up for you. And so that means hot lunches.
Say again?
Hot breakfast. That means hot breakfast.
And just to
don't keep them over 12 hours,
just to touch on a point that you mentioned earlier, and this is again, I don't know how it is that you're reading my questions without seeing them. So congratulations on your psychic abilities. But when you have private investors financing your film, are you much more mindful about getting that money back to them? In other words, although it is a passion project, are you very, very conscious of making sure that this gets to a big enough audience so that you can return that money?
Yeah, I really am because they took a gamble on me and us, and I want to be. I guess the end of the day is like I want to be able to, honest to God, tell them I did everything I could to get this movie out there. I can't control. It was a pandemic year. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how it's going to change independent cinema, but I want to be able to genuinely say I did it. I did it all. And at this point, I can say I am trying to raise this baby and get her off to college and get her into Harvard over here. And yeah, I do feel more is at stake with private investors.
Are you
Now,
allowed?
listen, I've never had a studio back one of my films, so I can't really compare or contrast that. But where I'm standing right now, I lose a little bit of sleep over it. That's for sure.
Kelly Walker, are you ready for the Schembri challenge?
I don't know.
Okay. This is a hypothetical scenario that I'm going to put to you. Okay, where I am somebody from a studio.
All right.
I'm somebody in an ill-fitting suit with just
All right.
yeah, just about and with just enough power to come to you and say, Kelly Walker, I saw My Fiona, this beautiful film that you've made. We really, really love it. What we'd like to do with you is have you remake the film with our cast and direct it. We'll have you direct it. We're going to pay you a lot of money and we can distribute it across the nation and across the world. But we do have our own cast members that we'd like you to select from. So remake the film, you direct it, and you can. We'll even put your original film on the double DVD release if you like. But we want you to remake it. I can.
No.
I've got to say, you're talking about psychic ability. I've got a psychic sense about what your response to that scenario is. Please articulate.
Yeah. I would never do it without Jeanette. It's our film, whether she's here or not for it. It's our film, and it wouldn't. No money, no promises could touch what that would mean to me to lose that being ours.
Because we love the film. I'm just going to, please excuse me, I'm just going to push it just a little bit further. Okay, Kelly, listen, we've actually got an Oscar-winning actress who wants to do this film.
She wants to do it so bad, I'll write another film.
No, she wants to do this script. She wants to do that story. And she wants to do it. So we can guarantee you this film is going to be seen. And will probably draw a lot more attention to the original film if we do this remake. What do you say?
I couldn't do it. It wouldn't, it's so funny. My dad always talks about the most important quality in life is integrity. And to me, that would mess with my integrity compass. Yeah, I don't know. I big believer in that gut feeling, and whatever sits right in there. And that I was like, nope, doesn't feel right. Because I'll tell you what, when I meet Jeanette on the other side, I don't want to have to be like, yeah, I'm sorry about that whole My Fiona 2 thing. I still love the first one better, obviously, with you in it. But nah, I want that spirit embrace to be guilt-free, authentic, and nothing to replace my memory of making that movie character.
Final question. What's next for you?
Okay, so there's a couple different things. I have a biopic about Audrey Hepburn. It's called Mr. Hepburn, and it's about her marriage to Mel Ferrer. So working on that. And then the one I'm super excited about is called Vice Versa. And I've co-written it with my Aunt Kim Flagg, who's a sitcom writer in LA. And this is about the first magazine for lesbian in 1947 that was written by a secretary at one of the Hollywood studios. And it was actually illegal to write anything homosexual down. So she had to covertly hand out the magazine at these underground clubs. And it's one of the most positive. This girl, Edith, is just this beautiful, naive ball of sunshine that I wrote it during the pandemic last year. And I swear to God, Edith saved my soul. So that's what I'm super, super excited about. And then I have a couple Australian things I'm working on that I'm hoping that I get to come back home and make eventually. That's the dream, to come home and make something.